Hey, this is Buddy Miller, and you're listening to Walking the Floor.
I'm walking the floor over you.
Walking the floor.
I'm walking the floor. Walking the floor over you.
Hola, senors and senoritas. This is Chris Shiflett, and it's time for another episode of Walking the Floor. We got a good one today. Buddy Miller, Mr. Buddy Miller, legend of country and whatnot, is here on the show today. I got to interview him a few months back out at his house in Nashville, and it's great, and we'll get to that soon. But first, got a couple gig announcements. I'm going to be playing acoustically, just like a one man and his acoustic guitar, down at the Belly Up, and it's a charity event for the Rob Machado Foundation. You know Rob Machado, surfer. There's going to be a bunch of other people playing, Pepper and some other folks. I'll get all the information for next week's episode. Now, hold on. Okay, do you ever do that thing where you're drinking coffee first thing in the morning and you can feel like right when it hits you in the veins, when it kicks in hard into your bloodstream? Because that just happened, and that's the best thing in the whole world. Okay, now where were we? Right. Yeah, that's the Belly Up on November 15th. Come check it out. Tickets are available now. And then in December, I'm playing, opening 2 shows for X, which is going to be great. We're doing one down in San Diego at the Casbah on December 18th, and then New Year's Eve at the Roxy up here in LA. Both of those opening for X. That'll be full band. The Belly Up will be acoustic, and it's going to be really fun. It'll be the first time I get to go out and play some songs from my new record that'll be coming out next April. And so it'll be a bunch of stuff that nobody's ever heard, so we'll see how that goes. And I guess, probably before that gig, I'm going to have to get on over to zounds.com and buy some new picks and get some strings and, get just general gear. Maybe I'll get an amp. Maybe I'll get a new guitar for that show. But you should get on over to zounds.com and check it out, because they've got everything you need for all you musicians out there. And they're even run by real musicians. And they'll make a payment plan for you if you're a little low on the cash flow at the moment. Zounds.com. Check it out. It's good stuff. All right. Let's talk to Buddy Miller.
Love is where you find it when you find no love at home. And there's nothing on as ashes after the fire is gone.
Buddy Miller is a singer, a guitar player, songwriter, a producer, a sideman, a solo artist. Sometimes he's a music supervisor. He's done everything that you could possibly do in country music, and he has honky-tonked all the way from New Jersey to Los Angeles to New York to Nashville and everywhere in between. This guy's done it all. He's so rock and roll, he was at Woodstock. As a matter of fact, he's so rock and roll, he once had a heart attack on stage and got off stage, drank a beer, and then went to the emergency room. Anyway, I'm going to let him tell you. This is Buddy Miller on Walking the Floor.
When you find no love at home.
Okay, I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, but tell me about...
It's Miller.
Tell me about the Kayamo sessions at sea.
Oh, okay.
What is that?
Sessions, yeah.
Is that because I was listening to it, is that a live record, or is that... Because I read that you had a studio set up on the cruise ship or something like that?
Well, yeah, it's a cruise ship. I mean, there's a lot of these cruise ships that go out.
Sure.
And I went out on the first one, and I actually really dug it. I went out kind of thinking, am I going to really want to be on a boat for a week?
My first thought when I saw it was, how did he get all these amazing people on a cruise ship at the same time?
They book them all. There's blues cruises, and there's this and that. This is more like the folk boat or the singer-songwriter boat, with a little bit of a skew towards country, and that's why I get on there. And I just always get on these things and just see missed opportunities.
Right.
I love playing with people. I love sitting in with people and just and hanging and just picking up a guitar and having a strum and Richard Thompson was on there, who's one of my, gosh, that's where we met, actually. And
really?
And yeah, we met on there, one of the earlier cruises, and I got to make a record with him in this room.
Oh,
After
really?
that, yeah.
So
and
from that?
From that, yeah, from
nice.
hanging with him. And I just thought all the collaborative opportunities on the boat are great. And, I would sit in with people sitting with me. And so I thought, well, why not record it? And then I packed up a bunch of this gear, and I brought an engineer that I work with, so I didn't have to worry about that end of it.
Yeah.
And they had a real cool room that was like a sort of a cross between a 1920s bowling alley and a bordello. And we brought some lamps in it and just
vibed it up a little bit.
Yeah, and camped out and recorded.
Well,
and in front of, and also in front of about 100. Open it up to people that would want to see the veil pulled back and see the process.
So there were people in it.
Yeah, because
nice.
I thought, that's the cool part about it. For the audience on there, they're really I like hanging with them. They're nice.
Yeah.
They're all nice folks. They don't, they're not overly anything. They're just great. It's a great hang. And I thought they would dig seeing how, the process of recording a song,
sure.
What it's all about. So we do things, record songs we hadn't played before.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was thinking about it, like I know how artists can be very guarded of what they put out into the world. They fuss over it. Oh, that's not quite, I want to go redo the vocal and stuff.
Yeah, I need to do that a little more.
No, but quite the opposite with that record. Like, what an amazing trust that all those established, legendary people put in you as the producer or, caretaker of that session. I thought that was really
I just
cool.
think we provided a fair bit of wine and they didn't care.
Well, I'm surprised that nobody cared the next morning. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's not to, it sounds
No,
amazing.
it was
Performances are amazing, but, people get, artists get guarded about what they do. They get touchy about it.
Yeah, and honestly, I was surprised that everybody let it go. But they're all good performances. They're all
right. Oh, they're amazing performances.
Yeah. And most of those folks on there are friends too.
Right.
And so it was great. We recorded some more of this last one. After the record came out. Not much because I wanted to. I tend to just take up all my time working, and
right.
I'm on a boat in the winter. In the Caribbean or wherever it is. I don't even know where we go, but I might as well enjoy it too.
I mean, how do you, with everything that you do between producing and writing, and I know you work on Nashville, how do you carve out the time? How do you pick which projects you get involved in? And also, how do you carve out time for yourself as an artist?
Well, and that's something I haven't done in a while. And I'm just realizing I need to do. It's been
getting that hunger.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a lot of song pieces. My wife is a great writer, and she's got a ton of song pieces.
You guys work together from time to time.
We do when we can, and sometimes we can't move a couch together. It's just
I'm married, life. Dude. I got it.
Yeah, and we've been married a long time. We met in, she was the chick singer in the band I auditioned for, and she told him, "Don't hire him."
Really?
Yeah. But they did anyway, and then
right. She was just playing hard to get, I'm sure.
She just was 19 and wanted to appear discriminating. Or maybe she was right. But anyway, yeah, so there's a lot to sort through. The television show that I kind of oversee the music on and produce most all of the music on it.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah. I produce
how does that work
probably
with
85%.
There's so much new original music in every single episode. Who's writing those songs? How do you guys get that together?
This town is nuts.
Right.
It is really, it always has been. Gosh, I moved here in 93. I wish I moved here 20 years before that.
Really?
When it was wide open, yeah. But it's just, I think every day, probably 10 to 20 musicians and songwriters move to town. A lot of them are really good. I mean, they really are. And I just would find out in the first season working on the show, I have friends that are writers who would turn me on to, I said, we're looking for songs. And it just, one thing leads to another, and there's so many great songwriters. Every season, it seems like I get turned on to an amazing new writer, and we cut several of their songs.
I mean, that's like making, over the course of one season of that show, I see that's like making a whole bunch of records, right?
Yeah, it's 3 to 5 songs per episode, 22 episodes per season, and for each song, 2 to 4 iterations. You know, you do a big full-blown version that goes on iTunes. You do the version that's for the scene, whether it's a live version that stops in the second in the second verse or falls apart. The songwriting version, maybe acoustic guitar, maybe a piano version. All sorts of versions for each song. So it's like making a lot of records.
How did that gig come about? I mean, how did you wind up working?
Hey, and that's funny you would ask, because I was on the Cowboy cruise back, must have been 5 years ago, waiting to get cell service in my room because we were pulling into port. I was looking at my phone and waiting for the bars to come up. Is that what you call them? The bars or the dots, whatever it is. And
you're asking me like I'm like the guy that's like in touch with modern technology. Hey,
your phone's bigger than mine. But so I got one, and I was waiting for 2 or 3 so I could call my wife. Second one came up, and then and before I could make a call, my phone rang, and it was Callie Curry. Who's she's married to T-Bone Burnett, and she was out. I was the guitar player on that Raising Sand tour, the Alison Krauss, Robert Plant tour, and became friends with Callie. And I guess T-Bone couldn't do the pilot, I suppose. I'm not sure, but so she called me, said, "Hey, you want to do the songs for this pilot I'm working on for about the music business and the music scene and the Bluebird and." And I thought, and it so that happened on the boat. If we hadn't been pulling in when we pulled in, I may never have gotten the call, and somebody else would have done it.
That is the music business in a nutshell.
It is, isn't it?
It really, it's like just well, I happened to be in the bar at 1 a.m. that night, and that's when the guy came in, and I got the gig. You know what I mean? That's my story. That's your story. It's like
the strange connectors, man. Everything in my whole life has been so random, just how it's happened.
You couldn't plan your career.
I didn't. You couldn't plan it, and I didn't plan anything, and it just kind of just happened to roll along, and I've had things to do.
Well, you mentioned that you wish you had moved to Nashville 20 years earlier, but you didn't do that. In fact, you were in New York for a long time, right?
I was in New York for a while, yeah. I grew up in the Northeast,
okay,
and then moved to Texas in, 75, 76. That's where I met my wife.
Okay.
And that began a bunch of moving around. We did move back up to, with the Austin scene in the 70s was another, it was just wide open and creative.
That was alt country before there was such a thing as alt country, right?
Yeah, it was. And it was Stevie Ray Vaughan and Jimmy Vaughan playing in clubs for, 20 people that you go in and just kind of see amazing guitar playing at 3 a.m. It was just a great
hang. Was Steve Earle around that world?
Steve wasn't there then. I met him. I played in his band for a while too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
After I moved here, but
New York. I mean, I kind of want to drill down on the New York thing for a minute because I just think that's to me that's just a curious part of your story, because most people don't think of New York as a country music hotbed. So I'm wondering, am I wrong? Was there like a bustling country music scene at that point?
At that point, when I grew up in the Northeast,
right?
My family settled there, and there was I lived halfway between Philadelphia and New York City, and there was great radio. The New Lost City Ramblers were at least Mike Seeger must have lived nearby, because his wife would show me, would be teaching guitar. I was 13, 12, something like that, probably 12. And she would be the person who I would, get led to good music by.
Right.
Her and another lady down the street. But New York, so I'd go into the Village, the hippie stuff was happening, and it was great.
Right.
I was as much into old folk music and blues as I was the Grateful Dead.
Right.
And
did you get into country sort of through rock and roll?
Through the back door?
Yeah.
No, both ways. I was into country already. I liked it. There was a country station I could hear. But then I'd hear the Dead also playing songs. And I think they brought a ton of people through the back door to country music. And when you look at the country songs that they played, not both Garcia and Weir.
Right.
They come from two different places, maybe, but it's the same thing. Ends up at the same
Were you
destination.
Listening to Birds back then too? I mean, the
yeah,
Birds
yeah,
one
yeah,
of those
yeah.
bands, Birds and Burritos and all that stuff.
All that. The music was great. Music's always great. You just got to look for it sometimes.
Sure.
But Yeah, I mean, I was at Woodstock. I was at Woodstock.
Really?
Yeah, I saw Hendrix at the Woodstock. I saw one of the worst.
5 years old?
No. I was too young to drive, but only by a year or two. Yeah, I went and then the next week or a couple weeks later, the Culpeper Bluegrass Festival. So it would just be, it's all music.
Yeah.
And yeah, the day so. How do we get here? Where were you?
We're talking about New York and
okay.
Country
New York.
Scene in New
So
York.
later on, I think the scene was always was always big and broad, and radio was big and broad, and there was country radio, but there was when I was living in Austin in the late '70s, a movie came out called Urban Cowboy.
Oh yeah.
And I was playing the dance hall circuit, which is every tiny town in Texas had a dance hall that you'd go and play, and I mean, and there'd always be people there. I was playing guitar. Got to play drums for Darryl McCall, who was a great country shuffle singer,
and there's
in the Ray Price style.
Isn't there a tradition within Texas of like a Texas circuit? Really, that you can kind of exist within that completely.
Yeah, that's what I was doing for a while.
Right. Does that still exist?
You know what? It's got to.
Right.
I'm sure it does. When I go to Texas, my wife's from Texas, and when I go back down there, there's stations that only play Texas music.
Right.
Which is great.
Yeah,
it's great. Yeah, so that still is there. But when that movie came out, a club opened up in Manhattan called Lone Star Cafe, and they would bring in Delbert McClinton, Muddy Waters, Etta James, Doug Somm. Not sure if Haggard played there or not. George Jones would play the Bottom Line.
Right.
I saw a couple of those. But they would have, Johnny Paycheck would play there.
Sure.
And we drove up. I remember getting us booked at the Lone Star Cafe. It was a big deal. We were from Austin. We drove up the band I had with my now wife. And that scene was so electric. I thought, we need to be here. I was naive, young and naive, and I thought, we need to be here. This is a cool place. They make records in New York.
Right.
I thought they make records in New York, L.A., and Nashville. I didn't know they didn't make country records there. But I thought, at least they make records there. And I convinced her to move up with me. And we became part of that scene up there. My band had Larry Campbell, if you know Larry. Larry was in there. A drummer who somehow ended up in New York is named Carl Himmel. I knew his name from playing he was in Mother Earth way back when, and then on the J.J. Cale records, Neil Young records, and a lot of the great records cut in Nashville in the late 60s and 70s on RCA especially, with Roy Day producing. So I was a fan of his. He was there, and I got great players to play with me, and I met my friend.
I'm assuming.
Yeah. Right. And to just kind of get my bearings in a new place. I started playing guitar with Kinky Friedman, and
really,
every Sunday night at the Lone Star was like church. It was quite a scene.
Too?
He was living in New York, like
really?
Blocks from the Lone Star Cafe, and or from another club called City Limits. So there was a little scene there.
Yeah.
One of my now best friends, Jim Lauderdale, was also living there.
I interviewed him a while back, and I think he told me that's where you guys became friends. Which, like, anybody that knows you guys would be like, I mean, that's not the story.
Yeah, you don't think, how we gonna meet in New York,
right?
But my friend Tony Garnier, who plays bass now with Dylan,
we toured with them. Foo Fighters,
right?
A few shows acoustically for Dylan, like would have been like 2006, and he was the one guy in the band that I talked to because he's a boxing fan.
Yeah,
I'm a boxing fan.
Oh, you are? Yeah,
he was a nice guy. That guy's cool.
Tony's a great guy.
Yeah.
He was the bass player for Asleep at the Wheel. And he moved up around that, for ages. Yeah, that's where I met him. And he left Austin to move to New York to play jazz, which I guess that didn't, maybe he still does play some jazz, but, you ain't going to make money doing that. And he got a gig playing with Robert Gordon when he moved up there. And then we would do some dates together, and we stayed friends, too.
And what eventually brought you out to Los Angeles?
That's a
long
long
story. Because you were around LA, like the Palomino scene.
I was living. We moved around, my wife and me, Seattle, and then down to the Bay Area in San Francisco, And then from there, we moved to L.A., where we went completely broke. I mean, completely bankrupt, broke. And I moved down there because Jim Lauderdale had just gotten his first deal, first of many record deals. And I'd kind of like slowed down playing, and I thought, this is what I do. I'll get back into playing. I called Jim just to kind of like pick his brain to see what was up. He said, hey, Pete Anderson had been playing guitar for him, who's Dwight Yoakam's producer, produced Jim's first record that I'm not even sure if it came out.
Right, I don't think it did.
Yeah. But the Pete gig, I get a lot of people's, I'm their second choice. So I knew that Pete was, that wasn't going to last, and I went down and played with Jim, and he said, yeah, man. So I played guitar with Jim, and that's how I got here to Nashville, too, because Jim would come here, it seemed like every 6 to 9 months to showcase for a new record deal.
Right.
And it was so expensive in L.A. I mean, we just went under. I would be driving 3 hours to play some casual, as they call them, some hokey gig,
like a pickup gig
in somebody's backyard with people, great players, and it was a great scene. The Palomino was wonderful.
Right.
Yeah. And
well, I grew up in Southern California, so I was actually went to some of those clubs, but when I was going to them, there was like heavy metal bands and punk rock bands and stuff. It was that weird period where it was, there were still...
Depend on the day of the week.
It depended on the day of the week,
yeah.
but so I didn't get to experience the countryside of any of those places, but it seems like in looking back that would have been a great time to be there if you were playing country music, because wouldn't a lot of the cats from like the 50s and 60s still kind of be around and still coming through? They were
still playing there. I mean, they're playing everywhere.
Right.
They're always playing everywhere. That was a great thing. Got to see everybody anyway. But yeah, but some of the session players, some of the cats who were playing on some of the old and some classic records would still be playing or hanging out occasionally at the Palomino or just be around. They'd folks? Work. Yeah. I mean, yeah. So that was important to me. And playing with Jim is he's deep. He's great. I mean, he goes deeper than you think. You just think, well, I don't know exactly what those lyrics are about, but that's a country song, or is it?
Right.
And we would open up at the Palomino with James Brown, "I'll Go Crazy."
Right.
Or what's that one? You got to live for yourself, and nobody else. It's not. James Brown did it, but who is that? Those cats. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah. So he would challenge the audience a little bit.
Yeah. So Jim, he would stretch it, and learned a lot from Jim.
So how did you go from? Because we have a mutual friend in Mr. Marty Rifkin that told me like around that time, like that you would sing on a lot of like demos and do that kind of thing, and
for him,
right? For him,
is he still doing that?
Yeah, totally.
Oh, that's great.
No, he's still rocking. Yeah, Marty's great.
He's so good. He plays everything.
Yeah, I occasionally can cajole him to come play some steel with my side band, which is great. Yeah, it's always a treat when Marty plays with us.
Yeah, wonderful player, sweet guy.
But I'm wondering how you go from that, and you said like you went broke in L.A., and that sounds like it was maybe the time in your life you're paying your dues or whatever, however you put it. How do you go from that to being so established in Nashville and being so successful with writing hit songs, producing? Like,
man, I don't have a clue.
How do you get from point A to point B on that one?
I do not have a clue. We moved here only because we went broke. Right. We were paying so much rent per month in L.A. I mean, we were I don't know why, but we're in in South Pasadena, in a nice little area. But I would come here to Nashville with Jim to play, and I'd pick up go into 7-Eleven or whatever it is and see these little magazines of houses for sale in the front when you walk in, and well, man, these things are cheap, and they think musicians are almost people here. I mean, we could probably talk our way into something, which is what we did.
Right.
Into a house, we paid less than half as much to buy a house here back then. You could do it.
Right.
Then we were paying for rent, and we had gone bankrupt. We were still able to swing getting into a house. The house right across the street from this house.
Well, Marty
go ahead.
I was going to say, Marty also told me that you did a really smart thing, and I can see that he was not lying sitting here in your home studio. He said that when you got advance money for a record, you went out and bought gear.
Yeah, it was like advance money for anything. If any tour I'd be on, it would be my reward pellet. Right. At the end of the line,
so you weren't going to get an 8-ball and strippers. You were going to the guitar, to black market music and getting some vintage goodies.
So I mean, we moved here, and shortly after we moved here, I got a call from High Tone Records, which is an indie label that no longer exists in the Bay Area, asking if I wanted to do a record. They must have had. Jim recommended me to do a couple of tracks for them on a compilation, and they must have had a hole in their release schedule, is all I could figure, seriously, because they didn't know enough about me. They said, you want to do a record, I think my budget was $6,000, $5,000 or $6,000. I said, no problem. He said, you have the songs? I said, oh yeah. And I said, great. And agreed to do that. Of course, we didn't have any songs finished, but we finished them.
That's a classic musician move right there. Just BS your way into it.
Yeah, and then we finished them, and then pretty much every song on that record got recorded by other artists. It was a strange thing to me. Yeah, I mean, because we didn't write it to have songs recorded. No, I mean, Brooks and Dunn. As soon as the record came out, I did my little showcase like at this little club. Publishers were interested. I don't know why. My wife would not ever sign a publishing deal. She doesn't want money to have anything to do with music and creating. She just thinks that kind of corrupts it, and and it doesn't. And I hated that.
Right.
But I respected that, and Brooks and Dunn, who were huge at the time, recorded one of the songs, a song that Dierks Bentley later recorded on one of his records.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a song called My Love Will Follow You. The Dixie Chicks cut a song on that record. I'd have to look at it and see. But, almost every song that we wrote on there, I'd always have cover songs on there, too.
And so did you go from that to you come straight out to Nashville and start writing? Are you one of those people that writes with other people?
I don't write with other people.
Oh, really? Okay.
No, I write with my wife.
Right.
I write with Lauderdale, but the way we write is we haven't done it in a while. I'll stick something in his mailbox and say, could you please help me finish this?
I need something on the chorus.
Yeah, just that kind of... Yeah. I don't understand the whole thing about the co-writing. Matter of fact, I think it's not a great thing. I think it's ruined a lot of music. I think it just dilutes things down. The personality doesn't come through as much in the song. I can only say that from listening to the thousands and thousands of songs I have to listen to for this TV show.
Right.
And see so many names on a song, and it seems like this town is writing, one of 3 songs, and everything is sort of the same. And it just drives me nuts until maybe I'll see something with one person's. I mean, sometimes co-writes are great. I'm not going to say it's a rule, but I don't think it's necessary.
How did you become a songwriter? How old were you when you first started?
Honestly, I'm not much of a songwriter. My wife is a great songwriter. Right. I hang around songwriters. Right. But I picked up a guitar. I was in a band.
Kind of confidence to go like, I'm going to put my idea down.
Well, I listen to so much good music. I think I like good music. I think that's that's part of it. I just been drawn to great, whether it's been old blues or I'd always be after songwriters. I'd pick up a record and see, Dan Penn's name on the back of that, or Dallas Fraser's name on the back of that, or Jimmy Webb, and then go after all these people's records, and start collecting records if I see their, when you could pick up a record and their name was on the back for writing a song. I would just go, if Dan Penn had one song on a record, I'd go pick it up, or if he produced something, or Alan Toussaint produced this and wrote these songs. I could count on quality, and I just would go back when collecting records was a hunt.
Right.
And you'd go to used record stores, and I just leaf through and be collecting, and I would hunt for songs and keep them, and I still have those list of those songs that I love, and whittle away at recording them.
And for you, when you are writing, what kind of writer are you? Are you somebody that sits there for hours every day and notes away at it, or do you just sort of collect scraps?
I collect scraps. And
probably the more common way to do it.
Yeah.
That's my feeling from talking to other people.
My wife is a scrapper too, but she can pick up a guitar and sing a song.
Right.
Something will just come out. There's something that's great.
Right.
One of the songs that's been recorded, a lot by different artists that we wrote together, I just helped her finish it, is a song called Gasoline and Matches that I was on my way to a session, and she didn't want me to go, and I forget why, she just wasn't feeling good, and there was a guitar by her or on the bed, and she just picked it up and just started singing the beginning of the song. I stuck around and helped her with that. But that's how. There's no.
What got you into music in the first place? I mean, what led to you picking up a guitar or whatever it was for you?
I don't know. Who knows why I dug.
But was
my grandparents.
Family? Was your family into it? Did you have siblings that played?
My grandparents on my father's side, they played piano. I think there was a violin around there, but that's about it. They had record players,
right?
And I just dug the records and I put on the records. The 78s. It was more just old swing stuff.
Right.
Is what it was. And then I would just get into music, whatever was on the radio. Radio was great.
Yeah. And how old were you when you actually started playing?
How old are you in fourth grade or something like that?
Right.
Probably 60,
9, 10,
61, I'm guessing. Yeah, that sounds right.
And when did you start playing in bands?
As soon as I could.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I had, my first electric was a Zimgar. You ever seen those things?
No, what's that?
Yeah, I don't know. I once in a while I'll look up and see. It wasn't very good.
Right.
I broke all my first guitars.
Well, you can't start on a good one.
Yeah, no.
That's against the rules. You got to go through one or two kind of crummy ones before you get that.
But yeah, I just was drawn to it. Same as you probably.
It just hits that nerve.
Yeah, you don't have a choice. That's it.
You don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Let's talk about gear a little bit. What's because you have so much amazing gear. I wish people could see what I'm seeing, which is the same thing I said yesterday interviewing Dave Cobb, because that's in another amazing place with a bunch of amazing gear. But what's sort of your go-to, what's your desert island rig? Amp, guitar, pedal?
Well, my guitars, they're sitting right by you.
Right.
See these two things here?
Are these the, what are they?
They're called Vondre.
Okay, there was something about a plastic guitar.
Yeah, I think there's some plastic on that thing.
Yeah.
They're made in Italy in, I think it was the 60s, early 60s maybe. Check it out. It's really strange. I was living in Austin, and our band with my now wife, who were just was playing in either Boulder or Denver, and I had no money, and I walked by this pawn shop that used to be a music store, I believe. It's been a long time. This was 76 maybe.
Right.
It was called Wedgell's, and they had that white one there in the window, unsold, and with a piece of paper said $85. And I walked by it 3 days.
It's a little too expensive.
Well, it was a little too expensive at the time. I mean, I walked by it 3 days in a row thinking of it. But, they have sparkles on them. And the sparkles in the Wanger bar just kind of like, I went in. It had flat wound strings on it.
Ooh.
And I thought,
nice.
I offered him $50. And he said, no problem. And I took it to the gig that night and went, this is more than just something that's going to look cool on my, at my house. This thing sounds great. So about 2 years later, I ordered, it's back when you had to order Yellow Pages, phone books. I ordered the phone book for that, for Boulder or whatever, or Denver, whatever it was. I remember back then, and found that music store. I called them up because I remember they had more. They had 4 more. Or maybe 5 more. One was too high up and not worth $50 for them to get down. But I saved up. They told me they had 4 more. They'd sell them each for $50. And
I want to know how the pawn shop in Denver got 4 of these.
They
weird
used to
Italian
be
guitars
because they were a dealer. It was a company. They had a little thing. One of those guitars on it has something on the headstock. It says Noble, and that's what I thought they were called for ages. Because Noble is an accordion company and an importer of these Italian instruments in Chicago. And they would probably sell their accordions, and then they'd have to take some of the guitars, or they just thought they looked cool. These are the most conservative looking guitars that they made. So I got the rest of them. Hey, one of those 4 that I got that I still have is in the Country Music Hall of Fame.
Really?
Yeah.
What's the exhibition?
It's connected to, it was in there before for Americana, and then it got home, and then Aubrey Sellers, who is Leanne Womack's daughter, but she's Aubrey Sellers. She's an amazing new artist if you haven't heard her. As some of the great new country artists, she has a little corner in there, and I suppose me and my wife are an influence on her. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Amazing. So it's back in there. But yeah, I think I still have 3 or 4 and a half of these things left.
Wow, that's really cool. I mean, I'm sorry if I'm spacing out here, but there's just so much to choose from in this room. That's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, so yeah, it'd be one of those guitars.
Right.
I like old amps, but if I tell you the truth, these new Swart amps, I use a pair of them.
These guys here?
Yeah, they sound great.
Isn't it great, all these boutique amp makers that are coming out making like amps that kind of sound like the old gear we love, but it doesn't break down when you go on tour?
I know.
It's so
it doesn't
amazing.
break down. It's just the right amount of power. I took a pair of them out. I like a stereo tremolo. I just kind of need less psychedelics.
Ping pong. Delay.
Yeah, man. I just need to.
Stuff,
I can get lost in that and not have a need for psychedelics.
Right.
I just kind of like pick up a guitar and just get lost in it. So I get that and stereo trem. The tremolo never goes off. I got this old Boss VB2 pedal. I think it's what it's called. That I think they just started making again. Is what I read. Just their vibrato, just have a little bit. I just call it my seasick pedal. It just kind of makes everything where I don't really have to tune the guitar because it doesn't matter that much, just slightly. And that's about it. I took those amps out when I was playing with Robert Plant for a while.
How was that?
We had a band.
Were you a Zeppelin fan growing up?
I saw their first Fillmore show.
Really?
Yeah. I forget who was on the bill. Robert knew at the time. It wasn't Iron Butterfly. It was somebody like that, I think. But yeah, I saw a lot of Fillmore shows. A friend of mine was a sound man there too. So who was a few years older than me in school. But yeah, so I dug Zeppelin in New Jersey.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah,
right.
and
Fillmore East.
Fillmore East,
okay, I'm thinking.
No, I would always, back then, I would wish it was San Francisco because I was so infatuated with that scene.
I mean, do you have a different approach when you're working with somebody like Robert Plant, who's such a super established superstar type artist, than if you're working for somebody that's like their first or second record?
No.
Or do you just kind of approach it the same way?
It's all everybody's people. Right. I mean, and Robert, it just, at least I think so. I got to know him on that Raising Sand tour, and then he asked me to help him put together that Band of Joy band and make the record with him, and I love him. He's incredible, and he is so inspiring. Right. It would all be about soundcheck, creating something new.
Really?
At soundcheck, and if we're doing old songs, we're not doing them like they were.
Right.
Let's make sense. Yeah.
You gotta hand it to the guy. Like, there's such a desire in the world for them to do a Zeppelin reunion tour, and from what I understand, I don't know any of those guys really, but like I understand he's the one that's like, no, not doing that.
No, he just wants to keep moving forward, which is great.
Yeah. Artistically, that's.
Or if they do it, that's great too.
Right. Yeah. Well, what's next on your plate? What are you doing next? You said you got the itch to do some Buddy Miller.
Yeah.
Writing again here. Are you going to make an album?
I'd like to. I got to, I've just been one thing after another for, I was out on the road, about 7 years ago maybe, and while I was out with Patty Griffin, Sean Colvin, Emmylou Harris, and me, they had this thing called Three Girls and Their Buddy.
The best tour name ever.
I don't know about that, but it's not a bad gig for me.
Right.
And we would go, each take turns singing a song as we were doing. And as I was singing my last song of the night in Baltimore, I had a heart attack. Made it through so I could get paid. And
you
then
made it. You still finished the gig?
I finished the gig, man. Not only did I finish the gig, but
heart attack on stage. So you missed your moment to have the best rock and roll death ever on stage.
I know, but it worked out even better. Oh no, I didn't. The creator of The Wire and Treme, but Treme wasn't on yet. David Simon was there. I think he was friends with Patty, and I just wanted to hang and have a beer at the meet and greet afterwards. So I knew it was a heart attack. I knew it was heart-related. Went down there, and I was soaking wet, in pain and sweating. Almost finished the beer, and then they took me to the hospital. I said, "You're having a massive heart attack," and they gave me a emergency triple bypass. So I spent a few weeks. But since then, I think it took 2.5. I promised my wife 3 months to recover. I could have gone out after 2 or less, but promised her 3. And since that 3rd month, it's been nonstop, completely nonstop. So at this point, I've just finished the 4th season of Nashville.
Right.
Finished a record with Steve Earle and Sean Colvin a few weeks back in this room. Comes out in June.
Right.
And we made it here, it's a really good record.
Right. Yeah, I got excited when I heard that those two were working together. That's a great pair.
Unlikely, but really good. And they both take a step into each other's house, and it's cool.
Right.
But it's just been. I think I just need to get in the corner and sit down and pick up my guitar and turn on those 2 amps and the stereo tremolo and
see where it takes you.
Yeah.
Great,
get lost in that for a while.
I can't wait to hear it, man. Thank you for taking the time out of your day. I know you got a million things going on.
No, this is great.
Yeah.
I've been really looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hope it's okay.
Oh yeah, Buddy Miller on Walking the Floor. That man is a living, active legend. You can check out buddymiller.com to find out all your Buddy Miller news, see what he's up to. I'm not sure if he got around to scratching that itch and making a new solo record, but also he's on @MillerBudMusic on the Twitter, so check him out. Buddy Miller, he's probably hard at work right now on the next season of Nashville, I'm guessing. Anywho, that's it for this week. Make sure you head on over to the iTunes store, subscribe to Walking the Floor, leave us reviews, subscribe. Can't say it enough. Anyway, we'll catch you next week. Every Monday, it's Walking the Floor time. Adios, amigos.
Love at home, and there's nothing